A goal, Quishbilly, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. It's the most wonderful time of the year again, the start of the football season where the hopes, dreams and expectations of every championship fan lay in the outstretched hand of their football club, ready to be crushed by the first final whistle of the first game. Here at Andy Takes That Chance, we always endeavour to offer you the best preview possible with in-depth, insightful and fully researched comments like this from last year's preview. Poz. Last but not least, top six. I can see you writing in your ledger.
Familiar names that we've obviously already mentioned. I think Fulham Norwich will be up there.
Fulham and Norwich.
This year it'll be right.
Fulham and Norwich. Just a delayed one, that wasn't it, mate? Right, so Pozza, you're back for this preview. You've even been researching and scribbling notes in your ledger in order to avenge last year's predictions. Good evening to you, mate. You okay?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Enough.
Good. Poz finds himself sandwiched between a trio of Matts this evening. A big welcome back to the podcast to a man whose eyes are as sharp as the clippers are at G27. It's West Yorkshire Sports match summariser, Matt Glennon. You okay, mate?
Good evening. Nice to be back.
And making his debut today, we've got a former TalkSport man and co-founder of the Ball Street Network. It's Matt Wilson. You okay, Matt?
Yes, mate. How are you doing?
Good. Right, guys, let's get straight into this. Carlos Corberán is at the helm for his second full season, having won only 3 games of the last 25. Does he start under a little bit of pressure, do you think, or is it a case of a new season and a clean slate? And I'll go to you first, Mr. Glennon, because you sat there and saw the last season, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Obviously, we did the end of the season stuff we've talked about as well, which wasn't great. Beginning of the season last year was excellent. There were some magical moments in some of those games last season. But yeah, he's under pressure. He's definitely under pressure. We know Phil Hodgkinson won't mess about if he thinks it's not going right. We're talking, mid-October, November. If that style of play is not there, if the intensity is not there, if the new signings aren't doing what they've been brought in to do, if the goals are still flying in at the back and not at the front, then yeah, he's under pressure. Like everyone. Like you, Matt, today with your technical stuff, massively under pressure. You know what I mean? Just hopefully Town season will start better than, you know what I mean, as we've done on the pre-show.
Everyone, no one's party to that, so I'm going to deny everything.
Good.
Poz, Matt, do you want to jump in? What do you think about the season so far for Carlos? He's had a tough year last year. Poz, there are probably many arguments to say that he probably didn't get everything that he maybe needed to make the transition from Cowley ball to Carlos ball, let's say. How do you see Carlos's position and it going?
It's a tough one. I think I agree with Matt, what he just said there. I think he comes in under pressure before the ball's kicked, really, which is not a great position to be in. We don't have the best fan base for looking at a bigger picture of Huddersfield Town sometimes. It tends to be what happens on the pitch is the be all and end all, which is it is really, isn't it, I suppose, to a lot of people. So I think he's got a lot of circumstances that have not really helped his transition from Leeds United to Huddersfield Town. Will they be taken into consideration if we get off to a bad start? I know we're going to come on to transfers and stuff like that a little bit later on. But to me, he's got to get off to a good start. He got off to a good start last time. It was sort of around about, well, it was just New Year, wasn't it, where we didn't really kick on from where we got going to. So, yeah, I do think it starts under a little bit of a pressure simply because of the end of last season. I think if you take last season as a whole and mix up the results from, before Christmas and after Christmas, it's probably not as bad. But because we did have a bad run in, I think, it does start under pressure. We've got to hit the ground running, especially if we get to play that match at Derby, given their circumstances at the moment. If you don't get a result there, already, now
against their youth team. Yeah.
Because obviously, Matt,
it could be a blessing that match, and it could be, and not a blessing, because if you go there and don't get even a point, then people are going to be out for him immediately.
You say, Matt Wilson, the Derby game comes up first. It's probably a good time to play Derby, but after that, we've got Fulham, we've got a Preston team that we never ever beat, and Sheffield United away, and Reading, one of the teams up there, and Stoke after that. So it's not the easiest of starts. How do you view the position itself going in? And obviously, we're not here on a witch hunt or anything. It's just a valid question given the run that we had at the end of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what Matt and Poz said is right. I think that he's going to be under pressure, and I think what Poz said about the fan base, true. I think that Town fans have been pretty churned up sort of since the Premier League. I haven't quite got over that, and I think that they're quite negative, and any sign of like quite almost too easy to judge a little bit. So I actually don't think he should be under the pressure. I saw a lot last year that made me feel positive. I was quite willing to dislike the guy coming from Leeds. I was really happy to dislike him. And I felt personally that the Cowleys had shown a lot, actually, and it's kind of turned round a real sinking ship that was just falling, and just to stop that momentum was quite a lot, So when the change to Carlos, I was a little bit disappointed, but I saw the green shoots of something, and we were playing with a squad that really wasn't up to it, and I think there's still a few people within that squad that kind of were signed to the Premier League and are pissed off, and didn't really sign for Huddersfield Town, signed for the Premier League, and probably a bad apple. So given what he was dealing with, both in terms of the fan base, some of the players, and actually the fact that we didn't have a full squad, and we had quite a few injuries, especially in defence, I thought we did quite well. So I'd like to give him time, because I think that there's enough I've seen enough to feel that if he's able to bring in the full squad, and add what he wants, I think that there could be something quite nice to come out of it, really.
Well, say, Matt, it's interesting, well, because obviously the Cowleys sideline, quite a lot of players just said, no, done. Your Congolas, your Diakabis, your Benzas. But the problem that Carlos had was he had to bring them back in again because there was no players. He had no players. Everyone was injured. Everyone was on the sidelines. Lack of form. And he had to bring those players and those bad apples you're talking about. And we all know who they are. We all, we've said it many a times, and I don't mind saying it over and over again. But he had to, don't even bring Van La Parra up. Hey, I'm having a good day. I'm with a nice Sunday, leave alone. But he had to bring them in. He had to use them. Fortunately, Benza decided, I've got a year left of my contract, so I'm going to pull my finger at my backside and I'm going to work because I need another big paycheck somewhere. So that worked out quite well for him. But the rest of it was just big earners who was just, as you say, not interested at all. And it's horrible to watch, especially as an ex-player as well, and knowing they are stealing a living.
But like organisationally, when you've got like a toxic workplace, it's a very, very difficult thing to turn around.
Any workplace.
Yeah, any workplace. And I think that, like, I don't know if you ever played in a dressing room that was like that, but I can imagine if you're a manager and you've got to accommodate people, like you say, it's very hard to kind of get people to buy into ideas and to kind of create that dynamic and collective responsibility.
You can have a toxic player who scores 25, 30 goals a season and gets you to the Premier League or gets you out of relegation because you don't care. You know he's a little prick, but you're not bothered because he's dragging your team to where it needs to be. But when they're actually not performing and also toxic atmosphere as well, that's when the problems lie. When you've got your big hitter who's on £10,000 a week, £20,000 a week more than everyone else, but every week he does it. Every week he's the star player, but he's a git. You don't care. It's when that star player who's on all this money turns around and goes, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to wander around. Brooke, you don't have to wash my shirt because there's no sweat in it. Straight back on the rack. And that's when real problems come into a changing room.
Absolutely. And I agree with you all. I want to see Carlos do well. I'm bored of changing managers so often. I like the style of play that he brings in. I think sometimes we're maybe before the Birmingham game, we were a little bit naive. And then again, at the end, we were a little bit Preston away springs to mind where, people just engaged in the wrong areas one-on-one and left us so open at the back. But I think there are aspects there of him learning, and I'm hoping that next year, we'll develop and Carlos will be with us for the long run. The only thing that I have is that if we lose as the first 3 games, or we don't get off to a good, a winning start, people will be saying it's 3 wins in 28 rather than 0 in 3, and then that ramps up a different kind of pressure, doesn't it, for Carlos? But all of us hopefully wish him well on that one. So the question is, guys, does Carlos Corberán have the tools to be successful? We'll do a little bit of squad analysis and delve a little bit deeper. 6 players so far have come in, with 13 leaving. Reece Brown's returned from loan, so again, you can class him as maybe someone who's come back into the first team squad. I think probably Corberán will most likely go back to a similar system than what he did last year, whereby it'll be a 4-1-4-1 system unless the opposition have 2 strikers, and then we will see an extra defender going in at the back with a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. Defensively, last year we conceded the most goals in the Championship, which cannot be repeated. It doesn't look as weak down there this year. So if we repeat that next season, I'm afraid it'll be a long one. So the defense certainly needed a rethink. Matt, goalkeepers, your expertise.
Allegedly.
The fact that we haven't gone with a number 1 shirt caused a little bit of consternation and a little bit of.
I've got a great story about this. So, when I signed for Town, obviously G27 is my shot. My goalkeeping academy, I wore it in the Scottish Prem. I had it at Bolton, my 27 as well. So I came in and said to Jacko, look, I don't want the 27 shirt. I don't want the 1 shirt, sorry. I'll number 27 hours of it. So Paul Rahupka got the number 1 shirt, and he thought he was playing. He thought he was starting the season. I knew I was going to be playing. So we went to Ibiza, and you played 2 games. We played one against Swindon, one against the Spanish waiters. Now, Rabs used to speak to me and was quite nice and stuff because he thought he was playing. And then he named the team to play against the Spanish waiters. Rabs played, never spoke to me again. So the old 1 shirt now doesn't mean anything. And I speak to Ryan Schofield, and other goalkeepers and stuff like that. Jääskeläinen, I think, used to wear 22 at Bolton when we were there as well and stuff. So you pick your numbers now. Ryan has his number. I'm sure that you're in the new lad who's coming, Lee Nichols, has got his number. That's why he's picked what he wears. So squad numbers now, it's totally irrelevant, and people are reading so much into it. My goalkeepers in my academy are like, Matt, there's no number 1. That means someone's coming in. No, it doesn't. It means they picked the shirt, they picked the number, superstition, or they just like it, whatever else. So I think that's a bit of a non-starter. A
red herring, shall we say? Yeah. I think so too.
There has been a bit too many rumours for me though, with the lad who's now gone to Forest, the American
Ethan Horvath,
yeah, and then you've got another lad, Premier League one. Sometimes I think it's just agents jumping on, when trying to get their players moves to different clubs. I'll be very disappointed if Ryan Schofield doesn't start the season, because I think he deserves to. So I don't think reading in the number 1 shirt is really a big question.
And obviously, you're going to say you've answered my question there, who you would start. So Ryan Schofield, I think Ryan will get the nod. I think he had a tough time at points last year, but I think people forget some of the saves that he made as well. He made some great saves, and he's young, developing, and the club have got a lot of faith in him.
They brought him through. You've got to give him a chance. They brought him through there. If anyone's going to get subbed, it's going to be Poz anyway. He's having a nightmare with that foam, whatever he's doing there. But anyway, he deserves to start the season. Again, he's under pressure though. He's under as much pressure as Poz is with his phone and his Wi-Fi. But no, he like Corberán, Ryan's under a bit of pressure, but he's got to handle it. Professional footballer. He's played plenty of games now. He needs to start well, and he'll keep his place.
I felt for him a little bit last year because I see it like, again, right? I mean, I like to see the youth come through, and I like it when it's a player that's developed. I'll get behind him more than I would, like a loanee from United's kind of like rubbish is what it seemed, because he didn't even sort of, I don't know.
Pereira did really well, Pereira. It was only 11 goals in 2
11
games.
and 2, yeah.
what a waste of a loan, yeah. But the with Schofield, you could see bits where you were like, oh, he looks like he's kind of going to develop really well. But then there were other parts where almost wasn't playing his size. I think the whole, for me, the start of a good defense. So I watch a bit of American football. So I'm going to say defense. I mean, the defense comes the keeper's a part of that. The way that they communicate, and you've got to be almost like an alpha male and command that area. And on crosses, there was a lot. For me, there's a lot of places that are quite fundamental to a goalkeeper where I'd like to see him kind of really grow. Do you think that that's coachable? Do you think that's something that comes with, with age and experience? Because I look at that and think, I'm not sure he's got it.
A little bit of both. It also comes with a relationship with your back four as well. Well, I think that I like Nabizar. I think Nabizar did great. But he's got a rick in him, like we know. He's got concentration issues. Richard Keogh did all right, not as bad as everyone thinks. But I say him again, he'll switch off, or Ryan will come for a cross. He gets his head out of his hands. They make a decision which kills him when he's maybe tried to command his area. I mean, there was a couple of instances where the ball should have been hit the near post, and it's on top of him straight away. He's got no reaction time. Yes, there's definitely room for improvement with his crossing for Schofield, but I think sometimes it was circumstance, and also the lads in front of him were a bit edgy at times. I don't think that helps.
It changed a lot, didn't it? The back, there was a lot of people getting injured and having to move around, and
Nabizar could change within a game 15 times. He goes from the best player in the world to, my God, why does he own a pair of football boots?
We used to say we used to either call him Naby Moore or Gordon Tuksar. I don't know if you'll get the reference to that, but Gordon Tuck is probably the worst centre back to play for Huddersfield, and Bobby Moore obviously. And he used to flip between the two. And to be honest, Nabizar made as many saves on the goal line as what anyone did last year.
And scored goals. Scored goals. Most minutes. Yeah.
So with Ryan, do you think part of it, because I look at Ryan and I don't know him, obviously, you do, Matt. It strikes me as a really nice guy, a really sort of personable, nice lad. And do you think maybe with goalkeeping, maybe there's times where he's a bit too nice and he just needs to maybe come through someone and do it?
No, he's got a snap in him. He's got a snap in him. Yeah, he's got a snap. You can hear him you can hear him having a go. You can hear him saying stuff. As I say, I think that relationship between him, hopefully, if he starts, and that back, that maybe the two in front are the most important ones. The two in front, and maybe Jonathan Hogg as well, who gets involved in that 6-yard box. They need to know he's either coming or he's not. Are you a goalkeeper that commands your area, or are you a goalkeeper that allows your 6'5" centre halves to head everything? When we go back to Paul Hooper again, good shot stopper, great kicker of a ball, never came for a cross. When he went to Blackpool, they got promoted to the Premier League. He did great because his two big centre halves just headed everything. So they knew he wasn't coming, so they never expected him to come. So Ryan's got to decide, and between the team, they've got to say, right, are we going to be a team that's going to be dominated by the goalkeeper coming, or are the centre halves going to deal with things? It's that relationship, and hopefully the pre-season they've got those things ironed out with a new lad, obviously, that's coming, Levi, that's coming from Chelsea.
I was going to say it's been a bad podcast for Paul Rahupka so far.
I don't know if he'll come on for our Cult Heroes series next year. He's had a panning Matt, but never mind.
It's great to be tight because you just don't care anymore. You can say what you want.
Poz, what do you think of Nichols then? We'll bring you into the goalkeeping situation. So Nichols, we think that Nichols last year didn't play much for MK, but we think that was more to do with a contractual issue, rejecting a contract 12 months ago, rather than him being replaced because he wasn't good enough for MK Dons. You look at his highlights video, his penalty record's obscenely good.
That was as good as Matt, but carry on.
You can tell us about that 3-in-1 game again, Matt.
I mentioned that before. I don't know if I mentioned
maybe. Was it Crew?
One game, you know. We still got beat.
Yeah, true. Still conceded 3, but never mind. 3 penalties. 2. Go on, Poz. Lee Nichols, what do you reckon to this? We're going and we'll talk about the whole situation actually, because last year we went with 3. We've gone with 3 goalkeepers for a while. Even under the Wagner era, there was Luke Coddington. He was the third choice. We've only got 2 at the minute. Giasu Belagambi has been given a squad number as well. I don't know if that's relevant to the situation. He could potentially see himself as number 3. How do you see the goalkeeping situation and the signing of Lee Nichols? What have you made of that so far? Because you went to Southport and you stood behind him, didn't you?
I did, yeah, and I'll just repeat that for anyone who's in the chair. That, yeah, I did attend the match. So we can get rid of that joke now because I'm back. But yeah, I think I agree with what Matt's saying in regards to Schofield. I think his shot stopping ability is decent. The stats prove that last year, and I think the thing that did let him down was maybe a bit of a lack of communication and being that voice in the box. But given you were playing behind different players every week or on a regular basis at least, you can see why that he might not have been comfortable. Young keeper coming up, sort of shouting at people and telling people what to do. And as you say, I went across the South Court, obviously, not much atmosphere going on, and you could hear players talking. And Nichols did not stop talking from literally minute 1 to minute 2. In fact, my little boy with him, he kept asking why is keeper so angry, because he's not doing all, but he's just shouting at everybody. And his communication was second to none. And if that helps Schofield and brings him on, then that's fantastic. And I think Nichols will push Schofield more than any other keeper that we had last year. When you're playing, if you know that you're comfortable in your position, keepers don't tend to rotate around that much anyway. So if no one's really pushing you, you've really got that little bit of safety net. So I think it's a good signing. I think, as you say, didn't play much for MK Dons, but could that have been because they knew he was on his way out and they wanted to get someone else in to give them experience or whatever. But I think Nichols will be, at the signings that we've made, a good one. If he plays, he didn't seem to be a bad keeper. If he don't play and brings Ryan Schofield on as well, then he's doing a job there. So I think if you were to ask me now, I'd probably say yes, Schofield number 1. With Nichols pushing him as far as he can go all the way. So they seem to get along pretty well in warm-up and that. They're having a bit of banter and stuff. And we're interested you talk about a number 1, because normally when they're about to warm up, one keeper kind of gets the full wall up and another keeper just kind of takes the shots. We seem to do it 50-50. So I'd imagine it is something that maybe still be up in air at the moment.
I think it is, so Poz, I think he's keeping his cards very close to his chest at the minute, Corberán, and say I'll be disappointed and I'll be mentioning it as well. But with it being a cup game, the first game of the season, it was the first game of the season last year, I think I remember as well. So there was different changes in the team before the first game of the season. So I don't think we'll have a massive clue who's going to start against Derby when we see Sheffield Wednesday on Sunday. It should be the full 11 to give them a competitive game before you start the season against hopefully a very weakened Derby team. But I'm not sure we'll see, any real inklings who's going to start that first game of the season.
It's a strange one how they've moved that game forward, because
it was on TV.
Well, in some respects, I'm thinking to myself, does Corberán already know his 11? Because he had 2 games lined up on the Saturday, didn't he? He had Brick Crew and Oldham. So if he was still a little bit indecisive, he probably would have used those 2 games to try and nail down who his first 11 would have been. So the fact that we've agreed to move the cup game forward, does he already know, or does he not? It's a funny one, isn't it? I think it's good to have a competitive game before the competitive league match, if that makes sense. It gets you in the right frame of mind. But does he know his first 11 already? You don't know, do you?
Let's move on to the back 4 as well and have a look through. So last year, 71 goals conceded in 46 games. That was our record in the Championship, which was obviously way too high. I don't think anyone's going to disagree on that. Last year, I think what killed us really last year, guys, was the lack of depth. We look at the left back when Harry Toffolo got injured. He had that back injury. Carlos didn't trust Jayden Brown to step in for him. So we saw Pippa playing across there, Lewis O'Brien. Dwayne Holmes at one point was playing left wing back. It was... and we've brought in Josh Ruffles to cover that. Jayden Brown has gone to Sheffield Wednesday, and watch him have a stormer on that Sunday against us. We've got Matt's favourite, Naby Sarr, at the back. Romani Edmonds-Green has got 1 full season with us under his belt, so should hopefully improve going forward. We've brought in Matty Pearson, who looks a very solid, rugged, industrial kind of centre-back, I think, Matt.
Yeah, I played at Halifax Town with Matty. He was midfielder when we were there, and brilliant. If you think Jonathan Hogg hits people, wait to see Matty Pearson. And Matty Pearson actually complains at the person he kicks that they don't get up quick enough. Yeah, he is. He is a lovely, lovely lad. But my God, does he hit people? And he blames them for landing on his boot. It'll be their fault that they've landed on the end of his boot. Yeah, he should have got out of the way. Yeah, but he's a good lad. He's a solid player. He's someone who you would never walk off as fans, as media. I will never say once, and I can guarantee this, that Matty Pearson's lost something in the changing room. Always, 100%. Everything he does is You know what I mean? Personally, he's got personal pride in his performances, and he wants to do it for the team. And you'll see he's a nice lad off the pitch, but he's a little angry man on it. But he's a good lad, and he's it brought a little smile to my face when I saw this signing, because he's worked hard. And when he dropped down to the conference with Halifax, obviously I was late 30s, he was starting out again, and he's built his way up there again. And you know what, really proud of him, and I'm looking forward to slaughtering him in a few games this season.
Excellent.
So Matt, you want that as you need a centre half that's an alpha male again, someone that people are a little bit intimidated by. You saw like Italy, the value of that kind of presence in the middle. But I'm really excited about Levi Colwill, however you pronounce that. From the little bits I've seen, he just looks like different. He looks like, I think, as you describe a defender as a Rolls Royce, that's what he kind of looks like. He's got the potential to be. And I'll be honest, when they signed him, although I looked at him and thought, well, he looks amazing, and I like that kind of quality. But I do also think we do have Naby Sarr, we do have Critchlow. I really like the thought of playing our own in a way and playing Critchlow. So maybe the use of a loan from a Premier League team with someone that's kind of got good potential could have been used higher up the pitch for us. Somebody, like a Smith Rowe, or, someone that's maybe going to add a bit of creativity in that final third. I felt like we were quite strong at centre half. But, I guess if he comes in and it's him and Pearson, if they're doing 4, then that looks like we're going to be improved from last year, which is a good thing.
I think Matty played at right back, I think, as well. Sorry, Poz. I think Matty Pearson played a little bit of right back as well, didn't he? And obviously, they do sometimes play 3 at the back as well. So there's options there for everyone. But I know we're going to get into later on who's going to come through the youth team, who's going to come, younger players. I felt Critchlow and Edmonds Green to an extent as well weren't quite there. There just was something missing. There was that either a little bit of pace, a little bit of rhythm of the game. Sorry, Matt, what was that?
It's kind of physical for me with Romani. There's a couple of times he allowed himself to be brushed off. Yeah, there's a streetwise element to that.
Yeah, there is. But you learn through playing games, obviously, don't you? Through playing games. But I just felt Matt goals conceded. There was just a little bit of naivety a few times with what was going on the pitch, and people like to point at Naby Sarr because he's not one of their own. He's not, there, and they get a little bit of an easy ride at times from. Well, Oggy anyway, not me, but they get a bit of an easy ride at times, and I just felt it was just, I don't know, just a few percentage points missing, and hopefully, big pre-season, a year into their professional career, they might step up to what we expect.
And there's big things expected of Romani as well. I think they've tagged him as a potential future captain, haven't they, over there? So, hopefully, hoping for a big season from him. Outgoings, Richard Keogh, I can't say I was too fussed about that. I know, Matt, you thought he was okay. I wasn't a big fan.
Okay, it's not good enough though, Matt.
Yeah, no, well, exactly.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah. Me curry I've made tonight's okay. You know what I mean? It's not brilliant, but yeah, I'm not going to make it every week.
Yeah. No one's going to pay for it, that kind of thing. Richard Stearman. Richard Stearman, I thought was okay, but he always had that error in him. He's left as well, and could potentially turn up at Derby on the first game of the season. And Tommy Elphick as well, sort of more of a forgotten man of 18 months, has left the club. Right back is interesting because D'Amico Dehaney's gone, a player that I wasn't overly fond of either. Pippa is currently in rehab at the minute for a groin hip issue, so hopefully we'll see him on the field sooner rather than later. But Ollie Turton's a really interesting one. He's made over 350 appearances for Crewe and Blackpool in the bottom 2 tiers. He's moving into what you would class as his prime years now, Ollie Turton, whereby he's looked quite strong for Blackpool last year. He's very different to Pippa. He's more of a defender's right back, if you like. He can play on the right side of a centre back, defensive midfield, and more of a defensive right back. But it's an interesting one, guys, isn't it? Because whereas on the other side, Ruffles looks like a like for like Toffolo replacement in the way that he plays. Turton's very different, and we've gone with a smaller squad this year. So the Turton one I find interesting because I look at that and I think, okay, we've let more players go than have come in, but players like Ollie Turton, I look at it like Martin Craney. When Martin Craney was there during the Wagner years, he could play right back, he could play centre back, and he could fill in here and there, and more of a sort of a plug and play. And I think this could actually be quite a smart move.
But they actually play games, Matt, as well. That's the difference. They actually play. They've got good numbers. You know what I mean? Over 300 appearances, 50 odd games last year, 40 games the year before. I mean, 4 years at Blackpool, and you see Ruffles 257 appearances for Oxford over like only 5-6 year period. You know what I mean? So good numbers instead of this constant injury. I've got a little niggle. Oh, my groin's hurting. All this and that. I'll play next week. I'm fine. We've got players in who I think will maybe go through the pain barrier a little bit more. Aren't quite. Obviously, it's a Sunday evening. Somebody polite, not quite as delicate as some of the prima donnas that came in the Premier League, and we'll get through a 90 minutes with a little bit of pain. Go to the next game. You know what I mean? And play again. And I think that's what Town have needed, because I know Pritchard alluded to the fact that he wasn't always injured when he wasn't picked. I know he did that little piece. But I think there's too many times where players made themselves unavailable for games when I think they could have played.
And I think sometimes a good point as well, Matt, is that players maybe overplayed when you could have done with a Turton or a Ruffles just to rotate them. And maybe that led to longer term injuries for the likes of Toffolo and Pippa, who suffered in the second half of last year. Moving into midfield then. So defensive midfield's nailed down, isn't it? Jonathan Hogg, new contract, captain. He's going to start when he's fit. Which is harsh maybe on Alex Vaiko, who is actually a really decent player. He's someone, Matt, who I think I was talking to Matt Wilson about on WhatsApp via the Euros. You know how there's certain players that you get an impression of on TV that do certain things, but when you actually then in the stadium, you see a completely different picture. And I've obviously not seen Alex Vaiko in a stadium, but I've just got this feeling that his footballing intelligence and the positions that he takes up in that defensive midfield and then finds passes, he's actually a far better player than maybe what you realise on TV is where I'm going with that one.
Yeah, he is. He is a nice player, and he glides through the game as well. He glides through the game nicely. He's another one who's in the same sort of mould as these players we're talking about, these English players we're talking about. Seems to get on with it. You know what I mean? He got kicked a few times. He put the hard yards in during the game as well. And on the iPlayer, you don't get to see that. That's what I was saying to Matt before we came on about the fact where the iPlayer doesn't show you everything, doesn't show you the subs, doesn't show you the game. I like to talk about what's going on when the ball's not there. You know, I couldn't do that when I'm sat in the studio watching iPlayer, but when I was in the stadium, Vaiko, yeah, he's a nice player. He's got a nice touch on him. He's got a pass. He's got a bit of vision, and hopefully we utilised him maybe a different kind of position this year, because I wouldn't want to see him just be a when Jonathan Hogg is injured type player. I'd like to see him on the pitch at the same time and maybe doing something else.
You guys, Poz, Matt, have you guys, what have you made of Alex Vaiko and Scott High as well? You throw Scott High into that position. He showed good energy at the end of last year, and he started pre-season quite well as well. So we're quite well stocked in that area.
I think it's an interesting one, because I actually, what I said about, won't repeat it because I don't want any more hate mail to come through about Johnny Hogg and his contract. But it's interesting, just going back to the defence, and if you were playing Sarr, Pearson and Colwell, as a three, is he a place for both in front, and then use Pippa and Toffolo as more forward thinking. So in that sort of little space, you're back to one in front. You could almost have that as a 5 or a 3, depending on how you set up. And I think it'll be good to have a bit of competition in that particular area. Your spine in your team, the 18-yard box is always one of the most important areas to protect. And if you've got Jonathan Hogg and Alex Vaiko playing, you've got Hogg that can do a little bit probably more tackling. But then something that I always think that lets Hogg down is his distribution. So if you've got somebody there with him that can distribute, it's almost I'll win it, you pass it kind of thing. Obviously, then you've got to look at your back line and rejig that maybe a little bit. But he has got options in there now as Corberán. It'll be interesting to see how he sets up. I know we're looking at squad and it's limited in numbers, but there's competition for places sort of now creeping in a little bit, which is only a good thing. I think we'll be a little bit more. I know we're going to come on to forward thinking players, after this, but if we can be a little bit more solid at the back and not concede as many, it gives you that chance. I'm not suggesting, that we're not going to concede lots, but what at 71 did you say, Matt? If we can, get that down by 10, 15, it gives you a fighting chance with your forward line as well. So I think it'll be interesting. And again, it's a little bit like the key situation there for me. If either of them were on the team sheet at Sheffield Wednesday or nailed down as, first choice, then you're looking at that and thinking, I'm not too bothered which one plays. Whereas some positions, it's definitely player A, not player B that you want. So again, it's good options for him and good competition for places, which can only be a good thing.
if I'm going to war, then I want someone like Johnny Ogg with me, right? Because he's gonna die. He'll take a bullet for you. He's that kind of guy. But there's something when you're trying to play football, and it looks like Carlos is trying to play football. Like there's something about Johnny Ogg that just, for me, slightly goes against what you're trying to do. And
transition from back to front quickly.
Like,
when you go sideways and back.
Pedestrian, like often just kind of turns into trouble, and I think vulnerable in the press. I think we saw that a lot in the Premier League as well. Like it's tough though, because there's times when you are in a fight and you look and you think the amount of times that Johnny Ogg's the one that gets you out of your seat and you're like, yes, go on Oggy, you know, because he's kind of putting that foot in and pressing and hopefully like lifting the tempo of everybody. But yeah, I was kind of probably hoping quietly that maybe he would move on and we might sort of start to find like a kind of a new person that might sort of fulfill that role. So yeah, that's something I do worry about a little bit with Hogg and with him within the team. And for me, it's almost like it limits what you're actually able to do, and it has an impact on everything else when that ball isn't kind of moving, quick enough and positively and just with enough imagination. Sometimes you saw what like I think he'd have been a good signing. Before he was in, there's just times where he just sees these things that someone like Hogg just doesn't have the peripheral vision to notice. Now he just all of a sudden pings it and then moves. And
even if he just gave it to someone next to him quicker.
Yes.
Instead of taking that third touch, just give it to someone else. Tackle someone, kick someone, do what you need to do, be the captain. Just give it to someone. Don't think. You can see him, give it him, get your position, move on again. Let him transition.
It's just like it's almost like a panic, and he just like doesn't do anything and starts to kind of just put his arms around, try and hold people off or something. And you're right, if you just gave it quicker, that's such a talent to like Chris Marsden, I remember used to do when I was a boy, and just very little simple balls here and there. It helps the team, to get moving so much. So that would be the thing I would like.
It's your first episode, Matt, and I've got a feeling there's going to be a line of town fans with pitchforks after you with that comment now.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'll start next year because I'm very much like the same thinking as you. Johnny Ogg, great player when we got promoted, an absolute hero for that particular season. But just to sort of pick up on your war analogy, yeah, it'd be great to go into war with, but he'd be one of those that if you had a set plan, he would just sprint off straight at the opposition and start battling with them, and everyone else would be looking like
no man's land.
And then he'd turn around and sort of shout at everybody else for not getting involved. And as you say, when you're trying to play football in a set way, one wild card figure running around trying to do probably more than he needs to, and sometimes make the whole system look a little bit flawed. And I think that for me is where Johnny Ogg sits in at the moment. He's not a bad player to have on your books, but would he be my first choice in a system that we want to try play football, win it back and get going quickly forward? It's probably not the first choice.
I'd say Johnny Hogg is, if your possession stats, I think if you're under 50%, Jonathan Hogg is vital. But if you're knocking on 60, 65% possession, then probably Jonathan Hogg's probably not quite. You're probably leaning towards Alex Vieco in that instance.
You were talking about Poz and talking about Fulham being one of the top teams last year when they weren't in that division. Well, I actually said that Jonathan Hogg would be one of the high-profile victims of Carlos Corberán, getting player of the season and playing every game. So yeah, I did the same thing. I said very early on when Corberán came in, Jonathan Hogg will be one of those players that gets sidelined because exactly what Matt's talking about there as well. That speed of thought, that speed of pass. We know the high press. We know what Leeds United do. You know what I mean, as well, and it's worked so well for him. And I thought he would be the highest profile victim of it, but he played every game, and he was captain. And to be fair, they needed him, because he wasn't working.
Matt, you look at the stats as well when Hogg didn't play. We barely won a game when Hogg didn't play, and I think out of everybody in the Huddersfield Town squad, we won the most games when Jonathan Hogg was on the field.
They barely won a game with him, to be fair.
Well, yeah, true. Last 6 months.
I think there is like a really big difference though with like football in stadiums and football without fans, and the fact the players have to bring the energy, don't they? They have to bring that sort of that pressure, and it is hard. And I think that's why those stats you just quoted there, Matt, probably someone like Hogg does bring that, and he does instill that. And definitely I can see what people would find attractive when looking at the team, because you want to see, especially down at town, we've always liked them to get stuck in. So you want to see that, but I think it limits you. And your little stat there, mate, about the if you're a possession team, versus a team that doesn't have the ball as much, what would you want to do? And I think it's all about the idea of the manager and what you're trying to do, and that's why I think that, maybe he's in there now, maybe it'll be next year as Carlos really starts to bed in what he wants, the idea that he has, that he'll start to recruit that kind of, the final missing pieces. But it might be another war this year, so maybe we need Oggy.
Let's buzz through these a bit quickly, because obviously we've almost done an hour already, haven't we? So we're pretty quick and we've barely got anywhere. Midfield. So in terms of midfield, Lewis O'Brien. There's interest in Lewis O'Brien that we hear. Who knows if he's going to be here at the end of the window? Juninho Bacuna is available to go. One of Matt's favourites. Reece Brown's come back from Peterborough. The Scott High. Dwayne Holmes hasn't really got going massively yet. Hopefully he will do, but he's been played out.
That's the biggest understatement of the podcast so far. Yeah.
Matty Daly and John Russell's coming from Chelsea as well, who I think is more of a B team signing, but we're going there. But we have lost Carol Eiting and Alex Pritchard, a couple of ball players. And my main concern really when I look at that midfield, guys, is that defensively, the signings we've made look to could hopefully solidify us, especially in terms of Matty Pearson. But moving the ball from the middle to the final third, Town never really got over losing Carol Eiting last December. And I look at that squad now, and if Bacuna's at it, he's a great player, but he's rarely at it, and he's not going to be at it because we're trying to get rid of him. So, I still look at that, and I know there's still a month or so to go.
I don't think the finish. I was going to say, Matt, I don't think it's finished yet. I don't think the incomings are finished. I think there's another Premier League loanee going to sit in that midfield who's going to be a ball player. Hopefully it'll be a Smith Rowe against someone like that. Obviously not him, because he's absolutely flying. But of that ilk, I think we'll see someone else come walking through the door next year. It's definitely the door's wide open for someone to come and sit in that midfield. Absolutely. And be that player, be that ball player that we want to see and we love coming in and watching, on the pitch with everyone watching actually in the stadium as well. So again, I think once we talk again in a few weeks' time, I think there'll be someone sat in the midfield that we'll be quite happy with.
I hope so. Poz, do you agree? Do you think that's what we probably lack at the minute? But like Matt said, like we said, there's quite a long way to go yet in the window.
Yeah, the biggest concern going forward is the creativity in that. Probably the number 10 role. Everybody sort of says, that 18-yard box a little bit further out can, 20, 30 yards can pick that killer ball through. Can't see anybody picking ball up, even picking ball from half turn and taking it 10, 15 yards and driving at a defence. Dwayne Holmes may be the man who has been identified to play that role. Still having Bacuna and Benza on our books. I still can't get my head around that. I know you talk about players coming in, but from what Phil said and what has been noted previously, he's said a couple of times we need people to go out before we can get people to come in. I'm presuming it's meaning Bacuna and Benza need to go there, because I can't imagine they're only on 1,500 quid a week, so that might be holding up any potential signings. I just think, why bother? They're not going to feature. They don't want to be here. Just should have just got rid of them. But he's played his card. He's taken a gamble there. And hopefully someone will come in. I think, is he valuing the stock too high? Maybe is he trying to recoup losses that he's made on him over the past few seasons? I don't know what his plan is there. I can't see anyone coming in with massive money, if anybody at all. So
he's not going to recoup the losses with Benza and Bacuna. He's not going to. No chance.
If people come in, just get rid of them, just get wage off at books, and then use that money to get someone else, even if it is a loan. That, like you say, we can probably look a little bit better because we can pay him a bit more. So that is the biggest concern for me. It's okay being solid at back, not conceding as many, but you're still going to concede. I can't see us scoring many, and I know Matt, you'll probably move on to strikers as well, but apart from Koroma, Ward, Rhodes and Campbell, again, I can't see many goals there. If all three of them hit 8, I think all three will do well. So the forward line is more of a concern than defensive for me this time now.
Yeah, it's for me, and we'll jump to it. And we'll go to you first, Matt Wilson, on this one. Wingers, we've got Rolando Aarons, a player that I didn't really want us to sign at the time due to his record with soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, and he's really struggled to get fit for a lot of the time. We've got Sorba Thomas, who's looked promising in pre-season. Isaac Mbenza seems to have been relegated to the B team, perhaps. He's not training with the first team from the looks of it. Danny Grant, again, another B team player who's had his injury issues. Josh Karoma, brilliant player. Love Josh Karoma. Still got the Josh Karoma conch over here, ready for next season. But to be fair to Josh Karoma, he's only played half a season, but there's only 2 assists in there. You're looking at who creates the goals, and Isaac Mbenza is the highest creator from wide, with 8 assists, and potentially we're going to lose that. Aaron Rowe, though, made a brilliant breakthrough, I thought, towards the end of last season. I think there was a number of really promising performances from Aaron Rowe. Nottingham Forest away springs to mind immediately. Middlesbrough, in the defeat against Middlesbrough, I thought Aaron Rowe was sensational when he came on as a sub as well. So I've got high hopes for Aaron Rowe. And the strikers, Rhodes, Ward, Campbell, out goes Sanogo, Umar Niasse. Umar Niasse, probably the most unlucky person on the face of the earth last year. And Kieran Phillips.
Quite lucky not to get on the pitch after Christmas, so it might be the other way around.
Yeah, Kieran Phillips has gone on loan to Walsall. So, what do you make of that, Matt Wilson, in terms of going forward? I think there's a lack of creativity in there, which worries me. It worries Poz a bit with the lack of goals. And I look at the 3 strikers as well, and for me, I look at them and think I'd be quite happy with them coming on with 20 minutes to go to try and change something or alter something. And I don't really see a starting forward. But like we say, the window's still open for a little while. We have to get the preview in early, don't we, before the start of the season? So things can change.
Yeah. I mean, I really felt, to be honest, I think it's been a long time since we've had enough strikers at the club. I can't remember the last season we started where I was like, we're set. I think probably the first year where we have Rhodes and Novak was where, and they were almost, I remember going to Southend the first game of the season, and I don't think they started, but they came off the bench, and I was like, oh wow, this feels good. And I think they went on to really solidify themselves. I forget who the other guys were, but
Robbie Simpson and Theo Robinson.
Theo Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, and we had about 4 of them, and I could see what they each brought to the table. And in the Premier League, when we were like year 2, and it was just God, I can't remember their names now. Big Laura
Mounier and Depoitre,
yeah. And it was like, I was like, come on, surely there's more to come. And I kind of feel like we're still a little bit like that. Certainly last year when it was just like Ward and Campbell, and I was like, and actually then Ward got injured, didn't he? And Campbell looked like he never had 90 minutes in him, So I look at it and I think, have we actually got enough up top? And we haven't, and yet is probably the word, because I hope that they're able to bring in someone like a good Premier League kid. That might be a spot if we could get someone there. I thought he might. I don't know if he's like, for me, it needs what's the guy now at QPR? Was it Preston, signed for West Ham? Is it Hugill?
Yeah, Jordan Hugill.
I thought he's the type, right? Able to kind of like go sideline to sideline, able to score a goal, bit of a nasty streak in him, up for it. I really feel like somebody like that. So
he went for big money though. He went.
I get that.
I know what you mean, that kind of character.
Yeah,
they're not cheap. Centre forward, you know what I mean. For me, you know what I mean. Goalkeepers shouldn't get paid the most money, but strikers do, unfortunately. And there's a reason why, because there's so few of them, as you say, that can put the ball in the back of the net, but also contribute to the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, and I get that, but I was a bit surprised with Rhodes, because what I remember of him was that he couldn't, as the game was changing, he was better in a 2, like up top. And so I kind of look at it, I think we might be a short, and but I think it'll be interesting to see what Ward's like if he's fit, and it'll be interesting to see what Rhodes is like and how he sort of like shuffles that kind of front 3. But I think that Karoma, if he can stay fit, I mean, he'd got more than 8 goals last year. And for me, he was incredible. He was the creative spark. He was somebody that kind of like carried the ball, made defenders commit, which kind of obviously opens things up. He had a finish in him. He was playing with bags and bags of confidence. So I'm hopeful if he's fit and he's actually back strong, that a lot of our threat will come from him. which kind of might open it up. I think people like Aarons and Thomas, I'm excited that there's some potential there, but and Rowe as well. But it really is about they need to step up now. Somebody needs to actually act like, look, you know what, I deserve to. In the same way that Koroma did last year, someone needs to really kind of show and say, like, I actually deserve to play at this standard. I'm up for it. You need to pick me every single week. That's the kind of, someone needs to step up, because seeing these odd signs of, oh, he did a bit here and he did a bit there, it's not enough, you know. If you're a young kid that's going to go on and do something, you need to be able to kind of be really showing up every time you get the start, really.
Yeah, I think Rhodes is an interesting one because he certainly knows how to put ball in back at net, which is fine. He was never lightning quick, so again, you're not expecting that, but he will find those pockets of space in and around the area, and then that relies on that quality ball into him, and I think that's what will let us down more than actual.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable finisher in training. He's an unbelievable finisher in training.
Shooting, and I think every single shot went in. And then he came on at half time and he had absolutely no service, and he might as well not have been there. So unless you're going to put the players around him to get the best out of him, there's no point in having it.
Do you know what?
Well have a Fraser Campbell who can run around with it.
Do you know what though, Poz? Like, that's a great point. And I remember there's times when Toffolo's in his stride and we were playing some nice triangles with Lewis O'Brien and him, and if we can kind of, he was getting a lot of ball and starting to put a lot of crosses in, and it felt like we were missing that kind of movement. So maybe the fact that he is able to get across his man or lose him, you know, Toffolo does have that end product. So and so does Lewis O'Brien when he gets into them situations. So maybe they do have enough if they can stay fit.
I think we're maybe 3 players short. I'm going for an 8 or a 10. You know, a player that can play 8 and 10, a right winger, someone who can put decent delivery in the box from the right hand side, and a striker. I'm not really going to throw any names out there. I'll leave that to the club. But the only one I would probably say is maybe Ellis Sims, who was on loan at Blackpool last year, caught my eye. I thought he would he'd do very well either up front by himself or alongside someone like Jordan Rhodes to take a lot of the pressure and the work rate from him as well. That's my opinion on the squad. I think it's getting there. I think defensively we've done quite well in terms of recruitment. We've got a decent amount of cover. It's just going forward. I think we all seem to concur, really. It's just going forward with probably a couple of players light, I think.
I don't think it'll just be us, Matt, as well, that sat there saying this. If you listen to various other podcasts from teams in this division, I think a lot of other teams would probably sat there saying we're talking about extra people coming in, and seen quite a lot online about we need another 3 or 4 players and stuff like that. There's just not the movement in the market at the moment. You know, I think I had a really quick look before we came on, and I think there's only been 78 players signed so far by Championship clubs. And I had a really quick look down on transfer market to see, you know, if anybody had spent any money. And I'd 95% were all free transfers like we have. There's only really Fulham, you know, I think they've just spent 12 million on Harry Wilson. QPR have bought a couple of players. Reading have spent, unbelievably, 8.3 million on that Olise, is it, from Palace? You look at overall.
Hasn't he gone the other way? Michael Olise.
Oh, has he gone to Palace from Reading? Sorry.
I think so, yeah.
Just looking at movement though, there's only been about £18 million spent by Championship clubs, which if you compare that to 1920 before COVID, it were over 200. So there's not a lot of movement going on, and it's all right now fans sitting there saying, we need X, we need Y, we need to be spending money. Nobody else is. So it's not like we're lagging behind anybody. It's just we've probably started off with a worse bunch to add to than other people have. So, you know, there'll be fans up and down country at all clubs now saying, we need this, we need that, we need the other. And sometimes it's a case of when one topples, the rest of the pile goes well. So one transfer further up the chain might.
I was going to say maybe Harry Kane or Grealish or something to Man City.
Yeah, and then everyone else
triggers, yeah.
From there, So, I agree. I think they are a little bit short, but I don't think we're the only ones saying that. So,
no, and there's a month, obviously, as well, isn't there? There's a couple of people that I speak to think it'll really sort of get going in the last 2 weeks of the window rather than...
Last 15 minutes. Mate.
Yeah, last 15 minutes, yeah.
When that Sky's got a yellow tie on and he's complaining about the transfers coming in.
Poz will be there, Sky Sports News, what you Canal Side.
Sky Sports News, hold your transfers until last day so we can get some more figures next year. It'll be interesting. I think there will be a bit of a scramble, and you know, towards the end of the season and all. It'll take it Championship this year. I think if they're willing to put the neck out and spend a bit of money, and you know, they've got a hell of a chance of getting promoted. Not saying that'll be us, but for someone there.
Absolutely. So that's the squad, really. That's what we think of the squad. Let us know, you guys, and via social media, what you also think of the squad as well, and what you would do. Before we have our say on how we think the season will unfold for Huddersfield Town, and we start making some predictions, I'm going to roll in a couple of videos from some selected Huddersfield Town fans, and just on their thoughts of how they think the season will go.
Hi, I'm Tom Bradshaw, aka Tom Bradraw, as known on my social accounts, and I draw things for a living. I think it's going to be another tough season for Town, but I also think it's one of the most evenly balanced championships we've seen for a while. It wouldn't surprise me if a team I've tipped for promotion get relegated and vice versa. I've optimistically given Town a 16th place finish, so keep the faith, Town fans. My favourite signing of the summer is probably Lee Nichols. He looks solid, he looks like he's a good voice for the team in those training videos, and I think he'll challenge Schofield for that starting position, which should hopefully see improvements from both. So for my top 6, I'm going for top Fulham, 2nd Bournemouth, 3rd West Brom, 4th QPR, 5th Borough, and 6th Sheffield United. And I'm going to tip Neil Warnock to add one last promotion to his list with playoff success. Bottom 3 is difficult. I think it's going to be so tight this season, so this is a total guess, but unfortunately, I'm putting Derby, Millwall and Blackpool in my bottom 3. Town breakout player. I think I'd like to see some first-team action for Brahima Diarra this season. Every clip I see from the B team, he seems to do something special. And then player of the season, I'll predict Harry Toffolo. He's got next captain material written all over him for me, and hopefully he'll show those leadership qualities this season coming.
Hi, so I'm Richard Burhouse, the founder of Magic Rock Brewing. Thanks to Matt and the team, and he takes that chance for asking me to record a little bit for them. You can follow me on Twitter at Magic Rock Rich. I think that's about the only place I am these days, but yeah, I'm on there. So expectations as for how it's going and going to go, etc. I'm pretty happy really with how things have gone recruitment wise. I think we've addressed the squad depth issues we had last year. I think we've recruited pretty solid backup players who want to play for us, who are ambitious and will want to push for regular places. I do still think we probably need some quality adding, particularly to the midfield and wide areas, but I don't think we're miles off as far as the squad's concerned. Don't really think we'll struggle for goals, and I think the defence should be way more solid, which is obviously a big problem. But I am an optimist where Town are concerned. As far as the best signing we've made, I like the signing of Matty Pearson. Thought Luton were well drilled defensively when we played them, and he looks like a Town sort of player, no nonsense, physically strong. Obviously, the young lad Levi Colwill joining from Chelsea as well means we should really see some improvements in that defence, which, as I said, is really needed. A predicted Town finish, I'm going to go for around 11th. I think we'll be solid all season. I think we might even flirt with the top 6 a little bit, but I think ultimately we'll lack a bit of quality for those playoff places, and we'll drop away to around 11th. As far as who's going to finish in the top 2 and the top 6, my top 6 in order is Fulham, then West Brom, Bournemouth, QPR, and the 2 Welsh sides, Swansea and Cardiff, in 5th and 6th. I think Bournemouth will win the playoffs this time. As far as a bottom 3 prediction, I think it will be Derby at the bottom, followed by Blackpool and Barnsley. Controversial maybe, but I think they're going to struggle without Valerian Ismail. I think a lot of it was team spirit, and the manager, I think, played a really big part in that, and I don't think they'll look the same next season, but that's probably one I'll be completely wrong about, but there you go. Town's predicted breakout player, the player I'd really like to see a lot more involved than last season is Vallejo, who I thought looked really assured when he did play. I thought his decision making and his passing, the accuracy with that looked a bit better than we used to, if I'm honest. So I really hope he plays week in, week out. And Town's predicted player of the season is going to be Josh Corberán, I would think. He didn't seem to weaken at all after his spell out. Last season he came back exactly as he'd gone off, and I think that'll continue. I think he'll be knocking them in regularly for us. I think he'll be the player of the season, and the young player of the season I'd say would be Scott High, who again I thought showed really good flashes in the later games when he was coming on, and it looks like the club think he's a good one as well. So yeah, that's it. Cheers, guys. Good luck for next season.
Hi everyone, Jodie Calvert here. I am at Forever Town on Twitter and Instagram. My expectations for the season, I'm not going to lie, I am a little bit out of touch following the pandemic. I've not been following it as closely as I usually would, but we have renewed our season cards, so I'm sure we'll get back into it very, very quickly. But for this season, I think hopefully with fewer injuries than we had last season, with Carlos having a chance to build his own squad, with the fans back in the stadiums again, hopefully giving him a clean slate following the slow start. I will be slightly more conservative than I was last season, and I'm going to say we'll finish 12th. I'd quite like a mid-table, no drama kind of season. Town just never seem to do that really, do they? I think the best signing we've made, I'm probably most excited to see young Levi from Chelsea. He sounds like a really highly rated young player, so it'll be good to see him in action. And predictions for the rest of the championship, I'm going to go for West Brom to win it, Fulham to come second, and I'm going to go with an all-Northern playoff. So I'm going to say that Sheffield United will banish the demons of 2012 and win it against local rivals Barnsley and also Middlesbrough and Forest. And I'm going to go with relegation for Blackpool, Peterborough and Coventry. In terms of a breakout B team player, I'm not going to lie, I don't have a clue. And for player of the season, I'm going to go with Jordan Rhodes, I think. And hope that he can win back the hearts of the fans on his return, and maybe we can have a prolific goal scorer for the first time in a very long time. So yep, we'll see how we get on. They're my predictions. Cheers.
Hello everyone, I'm Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher, and it's that time of the year again when I get to embarrass myself by doing these championship predictions. I think it's a really tough division to call this year. A lot more parity obviously with what's going on with clubs financially, and also there's lots that can change in the upcoming month before the window shuts, but I've had a bit of a stab in the dark, and this is what I think is going to happen based on how things are at the moment. Starting with Town for the upcoming season. I'm sort of how I was going into last season, not particularly optimistic about where we're going to end up. I think we'll be in that bottom third again. A lot of the issues that we had last season, particularly in the second half of the season, scoring goals and keeping them out, I'm not sure if we've actually addressed them. I'm hoping that the new signings can come in and do well and gel, but I think we're lacking a bit with a creative midfielder. Not sure we've got a goal scorer who's going to net us over 10, with the doubts about Rhodes and Ward and their fitness and stuff. And we're hoping for Corberán to have another great season. That being said, rather cynically, and I hope I'm wrong on this, I've got our predicted finishers third bottom, so 22nd. And I hope I'm wrong on that one, but I'm not massively excited about the upcoming season, and hope that signings arrive before then to prove me wrong. I think the best signing we've made so far with regards to shoring up at the back is a toss-up between Levi Colwill and Pearson. I think both of those will add something a little bit different, one leadership and one the kind of confidence and exuberance you want from a young player. But I'm going to go with Colwill. I think he's going to impress some people given that he's only 18 years of age, but he's coming from a very, very good academy system, as we know at Chelsea. And I think based on what we've seen in pre-season alone, he's not lacking in confidence, and I hope that he gets the game time to show what he can do. Top six, I've gone Fulham and Bournemouth in my top two. There's some good sides this year, I will say that, and it feels like the teams that have come down could bounce back up, especially with the business that they're doing. One question mark about Bournemouth is their managerial situation, I suppose. But I think their squad's great, and I think Fulham as well have come down and actually strengthened, if anything. My playoffs, this was really tough. It was almost guesswork, but I've got West Brom. I think they'll do well with their squad. Sheffield United have got the Jukanovic thing, and he loves a finish in the top six. I've gone Forest as a bit of a wild card with Chris Hughton there. And I've gone Reading as well, but those last two places are very tough to call. My bottom three, in addition to Town, as I say, that's as things stand at the moment. We could make signings that make me change my mind. I've gone Derby. I don't even know if they're going to be able to field a team. And then I've also gone with Blackpool, who have come up and they were impressive last season in League One. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to strengthen enough to keep themselves in the division. Breakout development player, I've gone Brahima Diarra. Been impressed with what I've seen from him in pre-season so far, and hoping to see more of that. And I hope that Carlos gives him minutes to show what he can do as well in good situations. We saw him bring on Scott High in the 70th minute of pretty much every game in the second half of last season, and I felt a bit sorry for him. So I think he needs to manage the young players a little bit better, but I'm looking out for Diarra. And my player of the season, I've gone with Josh Koroma. I'm hoping that he can kick on, that he can have an injury-free season, and I think if he can play 30-plus games for us in the league, maybe 40-plus, then he's going to be our top scorer. That's the way I see it, and I hope that him and Rhodes can maybe form a good partnership up top. And yeah, those are my predictions for the upcoming season.
Hello everyone, my name is Steven John. In case you're looking for me on social media, I'm always available on Twitter at SIVANJOHN_. You can always reach out to me on that platform to talk anything about football, in particularly Huddersfield Town. Now let's talk about the transfer that we've made so far this season. Well, to be said, I wasn't expecting us to spend so much, so it was obvious that we are looking at free transfer players. No problem with that, as I can believe that these players have unknown quantity in them. Just that we need to remember that they are players that come with League One experience. So the main issue here for me is whether they are able to deliver on a championship level. But the one player that I believe that could do us a favour is Matt Pearson. He's a player that with championship experience and was a key figure for Luton Town last season. If he can give us some reassurance at the back, that could help us in a long way. Let's talk about prediction. I would like to see us finish maybe a few notch from where we finished last season. Say somewhere between 16 to 18 place in the league. That'll be good. My top 6 team will be number 1, West Brom, followed by Fulham. The 4 teams that will occupy for the playoff positions are Swansea, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, and Reading. I got a feeling that Swansea will do one step further this season in the playoff. The 3 teams that I picked that will go down is Bristol City, Blackpool, and Peterborough. Now, let's talk about the one player that I'm looking forward to see from the B team that could make an impact. Well, John Russell that we signed from Chelsea, I've heard some great reviews about him. So if his rating will start to go up, I can foresee that Carlos would like to work with him because he's a player with great potential. And as for the player of the season, I think if he continues from where he left off last season, that honor will go to Harry Toffolo. Thank you.
Richard Kosmala at Richard Kosmala for Twitter and Instagram. If you're really bored and want to listen to my inane ramblings, there you go. So Town, dear me, last 2 seasons have been horrible, haven't they? I thought until Christmas last year we were looking alright, but we faded badly. So I was expecting quite a bit of movement this summer. Yeah, we've got some nice backup players, but I don't think we've got anything that is going to hurt a team. And that Norwich game didn't kind of fill me with much anticipation, albeit against a good side. We lack the conductor of the orchestra, real playmaker. We've not replaced Moy, obviously, from a few seasons ago. Eiting, obviously, not back, so we've no one really to pull any strings. Out wide, nothing really, to get excited about for me. And Benza looks like he's spat his dummy out, so we're desperate, I think, for at least 1, maybe not 2 quality wingers. I'd play Koroma up front if I'm being honest with you, but we might have to kind of play him out wide and that as well. But on the positive, we've got rid of a lot of our donkeys, haven't we? One of them's got the Blackpool, who is one of my tips to be relegated, along with Reading. And I think we're going to be scrapping in there. We all City for that 3rd spot. I hope we don't, get it. But there you go. There's a nice pun. Donkeys, mate. I think ours are gone. Really excited with Pearson and Colwell. I think Colwell will be the standout player for us this season. But God forbid any of them kind of get a knock on that as well, as we saw last season, the backups. not very good. Young player this season, I was really excited with Pat Jones. It was really strange, wasn't it? We saw 1 or 2 glimpses of him. He looked as though he had something about him. And he's a wide man, and we need a wide man. So I'd like to see him give his head really and that as well in there. For top 2, I don't think you can look any further than Fulham. Will be expected to come straight back up as well. I think Scott Parker might take his old side up with them and that as well. Bournemouth and West Brom, again, it depends if they can keep hold of Pereira and what have you. Then, yeah, I think they're going to be playoff candidates and that as well. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it for Huddersfield Town as we stand. Okay, there's business still to be done. We're desperate for some more quality. I just didn't see enough last week against Norwich, albeit on one game against the Premier League, to get really excited that we were going to do much different to the other seasons. But yeah, can't wait to get back in the ground. It's going to be unbelievable to hear that South Stand roared again. So up the Terriers.
Hi, my name is Cameron Pope. I'm a sports editor and commentator. You can find me on Twitter at CamPopeSport or on the other Town podcast at The Town Social. I don't really read too much into pre-season results, which is probably a good thing, given that an hour before I recorded this, we lost 2-1 to Fleetwood. But I don't think Town will know where they are in relation to last season, or indeed to the other teams in the Championship, until they step out at Hillsborough on Sunday. What I will say is, while we have a small crop of players who have the ability to make a difference at this level, I'm thinking Karoma, Pieper, Toffolo, O'Brien, I don't think we have enough of those players, quite simply. The main issue for us at this rate looks to be depth. It's the same thing that dogged us in the second half of last season. I made that 12 outgoings and worryingly just 6 incomings, and one of those is a very young Levi Colwill. We ran out of steam a long way from the end of last season, and it was good fortune more than anything really that kept us in the division. And without more new faces coming in, I envisage more of the same, unfortunately. So I'm going to predict Town finishing in a nice round 20th. If you give me that now, I would snap your hand off. Best signing, I would like to say Jordan Rhodes, given that is my generation of Town player. If he gets double figures, to be honest, I think we're in dreamland. I think it's more likely to be the other JR on Town's books, Josh Ruffles. Wing-backs and full-backs were undoubtedly Town's best outlet last season. For that to continue, we have to give support and competition to Pieper and Harry Toffolo. My top 2 is going to be Fulham to win the league and Sheffield United for my shout for second. The next 4, no real surprises for me. No doubt this will be wrong. West Brom, Bournemouth and the 2 Welsh clubs, and I think that the Baggies will probably take the spoils in the playoffs. Bottom 3, I would honestly put Derby 3 times over if I could. I'm going to put them bottom, followed by Blackpool and Coventry. Breakout player from Town's B team, I'm going to say a lad I didn't know much about until before this season, John Russell. Over 20 games in League One on loan at Accrington and 2 goals as well. Central midfielder, I will be keeping my eye on him. And finally, Town's player of the season. Well, Harry Toffolo is certainly, and was certainly, the leading light towards the end of last season. But a good season from Josh Karoma, and crucially, one that he's able to stay fit in, would certainly propel him into contention.
Right then, he takes that chance. You can find me on Twitter, Phil_GK, and Instagram if you're lucky. Not much to look at though, really, and not much going on my social media accounts. Expectations for this season, still slightly concerned, to be honest. We'll go through this in a second, but I think we've still got issues up front, out on the wings, and I feel like we need a little bit of creativity in the centre midfield as well, which we don't look like we've got at the moment. So expectations aren't at the highest at the moment, unfortunately. I'm going to miss Carol Lighting in the flesh. I think it would have been great to see. His movement would have been fantastic, but anyway, that's gone. Predicted finish 18th. Best signing so far, young lad from Chelsea, I think, is our best signing, to be honest. I think we've needed a centre half who can actually play with the ball. He looks a fantastic prospect. I'm hoping that him and Matty Pearson will work well together. I think he'll maybe bounce off each other quite well. Matty, not so confident on the ball, where I think this young lad will be, and our play dictates that. Top 2 to go up, I can't see past West Brom and Sheffield United, to be honest. Two strong squads, haven't really lost much. Not really affecting on the players coming in, but haven't really lost much. So two strong squads. Next four, Swansea, Bournemouth and Fulham I think will win it. And I'm going to go for a rogue kind of Millwall in there as well. There were a couple of teams really I thought Birmingham might be a bit of a rogue choice together. I have no idea why, but there's always a rogue team that gets in playoffs. So bottom three, I don't know if I have to do it by order. Blackpool, Derby, Coventry. I think Derby are going to be rock bottom. They've got all sorts of issues going on. Blackpool, I think clubs will love to go to Blackpool away days. Everyone's a bit of a night out, so the atmosphere is going to be great. It's not going to be intimidating to go play at Blackpool. We'll play there before the atmosphere is dead. And then obviously Coventry. I think it's a tough one. That I think it could be many down there. Not many teams have really bought anything of interest. So breakout B team player. I would like it to be young Diarra. I would like it if it was him. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he could be kind of a bit of a creative player for us. Not sure. We said this last year. We wanted a couple to come through last year, and none really did, apart from like Rowe. So, and then player of the season, Corberán, if he stays fit. I think that's it. I'm not very optimistic, to be honest. So I hope that some of these pods will be a little bit better this year and more kind of in line. Jordan Rhodes is going to score 10 goals.
Hi, Simon Copland from the Andy Takes That Chance podcast on the eve of the 21-22 championship season. What beckons Huddersfield Town this year? Well, a mid-table finish would be a great outcome, having narrowly avoided relegation last season. Last year we struggled to both score goals and keep them out of the net, and we've strengthened our backline considerably in the off-season. However, we still look light up front. With an ageing front three of Jordan Rhodes, Danny Ward and Fraser Campbell, you do wonder if we'll be able to score goals. A lot will rest on Josh Corberán, who I would predict to be the player of the season, having had a really kind of standout year last year despite his injury. The breakout player for me for Huddersfield Town to keep an eye on will be Scott High, a young central midfielder who's been awarded the number 15 shirt after a really impressive 6 months on loan at Shrewsbury Town in the start of last season, and then made some appearances off the bench towards the back end. In terms of signings, we've brought in experienced Matty Pearson, centre half from Luton, and lots to be expected of him to fill the big shoes of Christopher Schindler, who after a number of years at Huddersfield Town has sadly left us to go back to his native Germany. In terms of who will do well and the runners and riders for the league title, you can't look further than the clubs that have been relegated, and I expect West Brom and Fulham to finish in the top two. For the playoffs, I think the contenders will be Middlesbrough, Bournemouth, Sheffield United and Stoke, who under Michael O'Neill will come good finally. And in terms of relegation, obviously everyone's well aware of Derby's struggles off the field, and I think that'll start to impact them on the field. Plus Peterborough and Blackpool, I think, will be down in the bottom three. Best luck for the season.
Okay, thanks to the guys for submitting those videos through. It's going to be interesting to see what it'll be like back in front of supporters as well. Matt, you've already mentioned that. COVID as well, I think, will have a big say with training intensity. If we're still in bubbles, or if we have to revert back to bubbles, how's that going to affect, somebody like Carlos Corberán, who's still trying to implement a specific style between players as well. Some of the younger lads are a year wiser, and the backup as well has improved. We've brought in some flexible players, like we mentioned earlier, who can play differing roles. Although we've got a smaller squad, it feels a bit more compact and a bit more powerful, with perhaps maybe more people pushing in the right direction rather than all over the place as well. So, the season closed, hopefully we'll keep the likes of Lewis O'Brien and Harry Toffolo. And if we do that, then looking ahead at this season, maybe we don't have to have as much trepidation as what we did last year, Poz, where I think a couple on this show predicted relegation for Huddersfield Town, didn't they? Including your good self, I think. But looking forward then to this year, so We saw quite a lot of good things under Carlos, a couple of things we didn't like. And obviously we've covered that defensively. We need to be a little bit tighter as well. I think a good question as well, what would be success for Huddersfield Town? Because success isn't just getting into the top 6. There are a number of different ways that the club can be successful on the field, off the field. I think it's very important for this football club to really reconnect with some of the supporters post-COVID. We can see online there's a little bit of a malaise and a hangover still from the Premier League era. There's still a lack of trust from some supporters towards the Huddersfield Town board. And there are still bridges that the club really needs to build to get supporters back on side. And I'll be honest, guys, there's nothing gets fans back more on side than winning football matches, is there? So, you know, there are a lot of things that can be successful for Huddersfield Town this year, and a lot of it is off the field. We're going to go now. I'm going to stop waffling, and we're going to now start producing some predictions for how it'll go for Huddersfield Town. Does anybody want to go first on maybe a prediction of how they see the season going? Matt, go straight away. Go on, Matt. He's going to shoot.
I want to
us
just
all
touch as well on what people want to see and what needs to improve. Obviously, you write a few things down, and I think fans want to see entertaining football again. I think they want to see, you know what I mean, a style of play. That's going to be important. He's going to have to stick to what he knows, which was before Christmas last season, and he's going to have to get results with that as well. And obviously, more clean sheets. And if they do that, and we see what we saw before Christmas with a stronger, tighter defence, with players who are more consistent, you know what I mean? You don't have to be a 9 out of 10 every week, but people that are more 7s and an 8 now and again, you know what I mean, chucked in there, more consistency. And there's no reason, you know what I mean, a mid-table might sound really boring, but a mid-table with still, you know what I mean, a few points away after Christmas, where hopefully they don't have that meltdown that they had after Christmas this season, because we were talking about the P word around Christmas time last season. You know what I mean? Playoffs were an option until the implosion. So you start strong again. You know, when you get your style of play, you bring a couple more players in. I still think they're going to lose a couple, if I'm being honest as well. Then there's a chance that, yeah, maybe what Carlos has got in the bag can take him a little bit further than we expect.
I'm quite interested to see how they get on when in a winning position as well, because Huddersfield lost the most amount of games from winning positions last year. I'm quite interested to see how the crowd affects that, or whether the backing of the crowd maybe gives them a different mindset, potentially more confidence, if you like, and it can also affect the other team. I'm going to go with Poz. How about you? What are you sort of expecting from Huddersfield Town next season? And give us a position where you think Huddersfield will sit come the end of it.
We're expecting from the Town's fine line between sounding negative and realistic in it. I'll say that I'm trying to be realistic, and I'm not expecting a massive amount. I think improvement on last season needs to happen. I think you're quite right in what you're saying. In success for Huddersfield Town across the face of the season doesn't actually need to be we've made the playoffs or we've got promoted. It needs to be that we've got a plan moving forward. As Matt rightly says, some sort of style of play. There were a lot of messages came out when Carlos Corberán were employed at Huddersfield Town, saying that we were going to play football in a certain style of way. We were going to look to bring in a certain style of players. You look at the players that we've brought in since he's been with us, and none of them really fit that mould. And if I'm being honest, majority of the players that we've brought in prior to this season don't really fit that mould either. That's not a problem as long as they sort of produce something on the pitch. It's easy to go back and say, Phil said this 18 months ago. It's not happened if you lose it. But if you win it, nobody really cares what he said 18 months ago, because what's happening now is working. I think you bang right. The bridge between the supporters and the club needs to reignite. We all saw what happened when everybody was singing from the same hymn sheet when Wagner were there. Again, you looked at that squad at the start of the season and you weren't predicting anything like promotion, yet everybody came together, everybody worked hard, and look what happened. Fans being back in stadium, another massive thing at Town. Historically over the last 3 or 4 seasons when we've been in stadium, atmosphere has generally been better than most. So I think you're quite right, Matt. In winning positions, the fans will get behind it. Certainly the guys behind the goal will do what we can to keep the team going and hopefully pick up more points from winning positions. I think it'll be an interesting one. I think the start is absolutely crucial. 2 or 3 bad results, and a lot of people who you see a lot online, I'm not getting a season ticket, I can't be bothered, I'm done with it. closer it gets.
They've all got them. They've all said it to me in the shop, Poz. Honestly, they come in. I'm not getting a season ticket. I'm not going. A week later,
better forgotten, aren't they? Yeah,
because
it's in your nature. It's in your nature. You sit there.
Of course it is. You never know, because you never know. Like you said, look at Barnsley last season. You never know. It could have. David Wagner's team. They didn't play great football. Let's be honest. Who heard of Lerver before he came to the club? Who heard of Schindler before he came to the club? You know what I mean? You can have those special years, and that's why we love football. That's why you turn up to the games, because you never know. And that's what we've got to hold on to at the start of the season, because you don't. And that's what makes it a great game. And to be fair, the pricing of the season tickets as well is phenomenal from the club. You look at Sheffield Wednesday, I think it's still 550 quid for a season ticket in League One with a club that's an absolute box of frogs. You know what I mean? It's all there for everyone to come in, not feel ripped off, and hopefully see something a bit special.
Yeah, I think if we're on the field, I think if we come top of the bottom third, that'd be successful for me, and get people back interested in Huddersfield Town. People have been away for a long time, and they just want to feel part of it again. So if they can bridge that gap, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes that a lot of supporters probably won't see as well. You know, the support services have been really good. I'm a grassroots coach. They've been great with grassroots football, sending bits out. And the players before the match at Southport went round and they were handing gift vouchers out at the shop, and it's just little things like that get people back interested in. You know, if we can build on that and get people back involved and recreate that habit of going to watch Huddersfield Town on a Saturday afternoon, and you know that'll be a massive plus point for me. But like I say, just sort of summing up, but expectations not that great. Not expecting big things. Anywhere from 16 upwards would be a massive success on the field. But more importantly than that, I think they need to get that fan base back interested in Huddersfield Town.
Matt Wilson, what do you reckon?
I don't know why I've been dreading this question. It's a weird one. Like for me, I think that it's difficult to kind of have your like a prediction or to look at it until that window's closed, because it's only when the window's closed that you actually know what you've got and the intentions of the side. You know, so I can't sit here and say, oh, I think we'll do this or I think we'll do that. All I will say is that I like the coach. I like some of the squad. I do think there's a couple of little gaps. I think that, you know, there's a lot of quality in this division, actually. There's a lot of good sides. I think it's quite a tough division. But as we've seen, it teams can come out of the Premier League, they can have problems. And, you know, teams, the big clubs that sort of, it doesn't go well. And so I think that we've got the basis for something decent, and I just think if we're able to if those last moves, like if we lose Lewis O'Brien, you know, right before the window, I think, you know, we're gonna have, we haven't brought in a striker, then I think it could be Pozza. But I think if we're able to hold on to the ones that we want to keep hold of, and we're able to maybe lose one of them kind of like luxury guys that they've clearly held on to because there's a cash value to them, then, you know, if we can get rid of the right people, then I think we could be in a good spot. But I am worried in general about the club, and I think that going into the Premier League, like, it's such a big jump, right? To go from being the fourth lowest budget to going into that league is a very big jump. The teams that went up with us, Brighton, Newcastle, they went up about 6 weeks to a month before we did, and they were kind of geared up to be up there. And I think that what that did to us, that transition, because operationally we didn't have enough, you know, when Dino got sick, I think we've just been, and then COVID as well, it's made it tough. But when I look at the decisions, are those decisions that we're making with regards to personnel, etc., are they in line with something that where there's a plan, an idea that's going somewhere? And I kind of see a little bit of inconsistency, you know, like you were saying, Poz, they're bringing Carlos, but the players don't quite fit it. For me, all the decisions, they still relate to an overriding kind of agenda where it's about cash and it's about capital and it's about generating value. So I'm not sure that we're a team that's trying to thrive. They're just trying to survive, and, you know, that might be what we end up with. But
so about 16th then.
But like you say, you've always got that little bit of hope, eh? You know, so
yeah, you have to be careful, because he keeps all these and he plays at the end of the season just to embarrass us when we've said it, you'd see. And that's it. When Poz comes out and says he thinks Norwich are going to win the league next year, you know what I mean? This year he'll He'll come in and he'll put that tape on again on the preview show next year.
Be on one of these
So
buttons,
you're
I
right.
guarantee.
You did very well then to like really deflect that question away without actually giving us a number. I thought all those years in the media, exceptional.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Excellent. I'm learning from this.
I know. Thanks for that, my local MP, Mr. Wilson. Then. But yeah, so I'm going to go for. I agree with a lot of what Matt says. I think finances is the.
Go on, what are you going for? What?
Don't worry, it's still recorded. But I think finance is the name of the game today. Obviously, there's the dark cloud over the club is the repayments to Dean Hoyle. You know, obviously that hamstrings what the club can do moving forward. I'm not going to get into the habit of whether that's, you know, anybody's fault or anything, or not get into the conversation either. But that is a black cloud because money is going out of the club to repay the former owner, which means it doesn't go into what's going on the field. So I do think that, you know, developing and selling is very much the name of the game for Huddersfield Town. So Lewis O'Brien, Josh Koroma, Harry Toffolo, you know, if we lose one of those, like Matt says, then we could be in trouble. But I am going to say that we will improve. I think the squad is a bit happier with the squad, especially at the back. You know, I like how adaptable certain players are and how they can plug and play in different areas. And I'm going to go and say 18th, 19th for Huddersfield Town next season. And I do think...
sound like my accountant through COVID. Bloody hell.
I'm going to say 18th, 19th, and that we're going to see a couple of players come through and do quite well. And I think that will be success for Huddersfield Town will be just to keep going in the right direction, even if it's a couple of places. And mostly, I think the success is going to have to be commercially as well to move Huddersfield Town forward, because ultimately that's where the money on the pitch comes from. It's from behind the scenes, whether Huddersfield fans like that or not. So I'm going for 19th, 18th, 19th. But we're going to go for a predicted player of the year. So predicted player of the year and a predicted breakout player of the year. This is more fun, isn't it, than saying where Huddersfield Town are going to finish. So if, obviously, caveat this with if they are still here by the end of the season. It's obvious for me. I go on about him every week. I've got I even bought a conch from Amazon for a couple of quid. Josh Koroma is going to be the player of the year if he stays fit for me next year. He's Huddersfield Town's best player. He's Huddersfield Town's most exciting player. Spectacular. A lot of the goals he scores are spectacular. I'm a big fan of his, and I think come the end of next year, we may even see Josh Koroma move to a central striking position, in my opinion, because my breakout player is going to be Sorba Thomas. I think Sorba Thomas has got a great attitude. I think he's shown quite a lot in the earliness, you know, how keen. From things I hear, he's really keen in training. You know, he really goes to the analysts and he really works at what he does. Apparently, he's got a fantastic attitude. You know, he's lost weight. He's, you know, become more muscular, fitter. I think Sorba Thomas will break through, and I think we could see Koroma shift centrally because, you know, the elder strikers, the elder statesmen, if you like, of Rhodes, etc., perhaps don't really float my boat in terms of starting. So I'm going to go for those two: Josh Koroma to be Player of the Year, Sorba Thomas as the breakout Player of the Year, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Porritt.
I was going to breakout player. I was going to suggest Thomas as well. I think, again, seeing him at Southport, he was full of energy. Every time he got a ball, he looked to go forward with it, which I really like. I think he will come on leaps and bounds this season. I think, as you say, he'll be the sort of the breakout player from the pack of sort of, I won't say mediocre players, because that's probably giving him a disservice. But do you know what I mean? From the pack of the rest, I think Sorba Thomas will stick out from there. Overall player of the year, yeah, Koroma's probably in there for obvious reasons. It's hard to say because I've not really seen much of any of the new signings, but I did like Matty Pearson at Southport. I think, you know, as a former centre half myself, I think that's a position that's often overlooked when you're looking at players of the year. It tends to go to more forward-thinking players, but if he can come in and steady that back floor, that you know, whatever we decide to play it back, if he can sort of bring them together as an experienced player and bring them all on as footballers, then I think he'll do a great job there. So he's with a shout. And then you've obviously got your others like your O'Brien, your Johnny Oggs, who tend to be fans' favourites, Pippa and Toppolo probably with a shout. But overall, I think Matty Pearson has got the potential to be a really shrewd and good investment for town. So I'll go with him.
Matt Glennon, Naby Sarr?
For half the season, yeah. And then for his identical twin that turns up for other games as well, with his boots on the wrong feet. Scotty Hyde coming through, I think he showed some good bits, really good bits when he got his chances end of last season. I think he's someone definitely to watch. I think he's been getting involved in pre-season games as well, with the first team from bits I've seen. Again, we were positive. I think Matty Pearson, because I know what Huddersfield Town fans like. They like passion, they like commitment, they like people that never back down, they like hard workers. So Matty's going to be slipped straight into there. But I think I'm going to go with you, Matty. It's got to be Koroma, because you saw his goal against Harrogate the other day. He left the defender for dead, kneed it into the back of the goal using a different part of his body. You know what I mean? Sometimes you've got to be adaptable to your situation. He did that because he wasn't going to lift his leg up that high. And yeah, if he stays fit, he stays, you know what I mean, physically fit, his weight stays right, everything's there. I was really disappointed when he got injured last year when he slipped in that corner. And you think, oh, he's all right. He's only slipped on a banana skin. And it was like, bloody hell, he's out. And then it was a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then we didn't see him for months. I think a fit, you know what I mean, Josh Koroma is going to be someone that come January, Town are going to be struggling to keep hold of.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt Wilson?
Well, just to be, I obviously can't say JK again because you've all said him, although I do concur with his quality. But so I'm just going to go for Toffs. I think for me, he's like, he really like, to say that he joined the team sort of partway through the year, I think that was right, in a window. He just seemed to settle instantly and really kind of like almost become a bit of a talisman. And I think when he's playing well, we're doing well. I love his energy and he's getting up and down. He has a bit of quality in that left peg. Looks like he's got a few goals in him as well. Hopefully he can stay fit. And I think he's just the way he plays, like he's just an easy guy to root for. So I'll go for Toffs. And then in terms of I want to go for Levi. I don't know if he counts as I guess he does because he's not really broken through, has he? He's 18. So I'm going to go for him. I think from what I've seen of his YouTube clips and I look at him, I think he looks like he's got the ability to kind of be the next great centre-half that's coming into sort of like Chelsea's system or getting a Premier League loan next year. So I think he really makes a name for himself this year.
The way he passes through the thirds was frightening. I watched it. I know it was on. People say it's only with South. Who did he play against? I think it was Southport, wasn't it? He played a second half, maybe the last week. But the way he Norwich, even Norwich. I watched some of the Norwich friendly as well, and the way he passed out from the back is phenomenally good.
He passes past Jonathan Hogg, you see, that's why Matt Wilson likes him. So he bypasses Hoggy, so.
He carries it past him though as well, which is great. He carries the ball. He does look a really exciting player. Really exciting player. Right, championship prediction. So we're going to widen the net, whip out the old crystal ball, and have a look towards the championship as Matt Wilson brings up odds checker just to see who's in the top few there.
You can actually say Fulham this year.
I'm just bringing Google up to see who's actually in championship. So
Do you want a minute, Poz? So there's a number of new managers which make this really interesting for me at the top. For me, I think the last couple of seasons due to COVID, financially, I think the teams coming down have come down with a huge advantage in the last few years. They seem to have been able to keep players as well a bit more than what they used to do. But you look at Bournemouth's squad. Bournemouth have barely lost anyone in the season in a bit. Maybe, things could change. Billings got interest in him and whatnot, but they have an outstanding side. So I'm going to go top two, first of all. The team that I've got winning the league, Poz, is Fulham. Even if Marco Silva is useless, I just think the quality of player that they've got at Fulham is ridiculous. They've just spent 12 million on Harry Wilson as well. And Harry Wilson maybe didn't have an outstanding season last year for Cardiff. He was good towards the end. Just think he scored an excellent hat-trick, didn't he, towards the end? But his set-piece delivery alone is just top class. He's a fantastic player, as Harry Wilson. I think he strengthens Fulham. And Mitrovic is still there, as far as I know, at the minute as well. And, he bangs 25, 30 goals in for fun in this level. And if you've got one of those, then you've always got a chance of finishing the top two. So I'm going to go Fulham top. Second place, I've actually gone for Sheffield United. mainly because they got Slavisa Jukanovic in really early. He came in slightly earlier than everyone else. I think he's great. And I just look at McBurney and Ryan Brewster, and they are players that have done well at this level, but struggled to move that up to the Premier League, maybe a bit like Alex Pritchard before he signed for Huddersfield Town. And I just think there's goals there with McBurney and Brewster. Maybe they're not, I'm going to caveat this and say maybe they're not quite all a Slavisa Jukanovic style player yet. But you look at even Ollie Norwood there, and they've got a really good settled side. John Egan at the back. They're probably going to get 30 million quid for Aaron Ramsdale, which they can use elsewhere as well. So I think Sheffield United will also be up there. And my player 4, Bournemouth, who have gone to win it. Sadly, I don't like Bournemouth. I'm not going to go into that too much, but I'm not a massive fan of Scott Parker. But I think they've got enough, players-wise to get over the line. West Brom, gone for no shock so far, but I've also gone for Queen's Park Rangers. I think Queen's Park Rangers put together a really impressive run at the end of last season. I thought they were very, very good. They've strengthened well over the summer. Charlie Austin's coming permanently. And I look at him, Lyndon Dykes, Elias Chair. They've strengthened the defence. They brought in McCallum, who was good at Coventry. And I think QPR have actually got a really good shout of getting into this top 6. And my last place, I'm undecided between Cardiff and Middlesbrough. Look at the, Mick McCarthy versus Neil Warnock. That's an evening meal that you want to sit in on, isn't it? Between those two. And I just think whoever has the best window towards the end between those two will nick the top 6 between Cardiff and Middlesbrough. But Bournemouth are my winners. And my dark horse is Luton Town. I think they've made some really good signings, and I think they could potentially improve on last year's 11th, 12th place. So I'll turn this over to Matt Glennon, who's looking really intrigued by my waffle.
Wow. I can't remember when you started. I thought you were going to do the full league.
I'm just seeing if you're still switched on there. Right, 7th place. I've got.
Yeah. I can go through everyone's youth teams.
I'm just thorough, Matt. This is what we do.
I disagree with you. I think Bournemouth are going to be up there. Again, I agree with you, Fulham, but I think Bournemouth are automatic.
Okay.
I think they will. I think they'll have a good year. The sun's always shining in Bournemouth as well, so I think they'll be right up there, top 2 with Fulham. I've put question mark Sheffield United. Just the way the season went last year, a bit like Huddersfield, when you get beaten up for a full year, it's quite hard to bounce back when you've had that many disappointments in one season. I think my dark horse is going to be Stoke. You can't keep spending that kind of money and paying them kind of wages. And obviously they've got an experienced manager now without having some sort of, promotion push or success. So I think Stoke are going to spend their way out of the division at some point, because obviously a woman who pays herself £300 million a year dividends must be able to afford a couple of players here and there. West Brom, again, playoffs yet. Your normal people in there, and I think your strugglers are going to be like your Hull Cities, and who are still in a bad place. I think Derby are going to struggle as well, and that's why I think Huddersfield is, as much as people have critics of the chairman of the club, financially they are stable. You know what I mean? The players are getting paid. I spoke to Jordan not long ago. He didn't been paid for 10 weeks. You know what I mean? They are a stable club. Players are getting paid. I mean, the training ground's immaculate. Things are right. I know people, you know what I mean, have the haters towards what's going on. I just think the stability of the club and the early business they've done means they'll be in front of some of these clubs who are a bit all over the place, especially with the pandemic as well and finances. It's I think Huddersfield Town are in a bit better place than people think they are.
Oh, who's going next? Poz, who have you got?
Well, based on absolutely zero research whatsoever, Matthew.
I saw your ledger, mate. You've got a ledger there that you've been scribbling in.
That was just on Town. I didn't realise we were doing a championship. I think I agree with you. I think the teams that have come down are in a really good position this year, just finance behind them, due to COVID and stuff like that. So, your obvious ones, Fulham, Sheffield United probably will be up there. I think what Matt says is right about Sheffield United. It's whether or not they can turn that losing mentality into a winning mentality quickly enough. If they get off to a bad start and don't pick up immediate results, will that hangover kick in, and will they struggle? So again, I've not looked into too much detail about who's got who and who's got what, but Swansea, Forest, Cardiff, Middlesbrough, they'll be knocking on door the playoffs. I don't think Barnsley will be up there again this time round. But it's interesting because I know you joked about odds, and stuff like that. But I think Peterborough are outsiders this time, and they're only about 21, 22 to 1. So it just shows how tight it is, because normally there's a couple down there at 250, 300 to 1 at least, and it just shows that it is quite a tight division. And if you do put a string of results together, you might, I know we talk about dark horses, but there might be 2 or 3 teams that surprise us this time round. It'll only take a chairman to think, you know what, this is a good opportunity, let's spend a little bit of money, and then all of a sudden it could propel them up.
That's why I'm thinking Steve Gibson, Middlesbrough. He seems to be that kind of opportunist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you speak at QPR, I know they're quite financially well off and stuff like that. So if a team's there or thereabouts in January, I can't see many teams splashing out like usual. So again, all it'll take is someone in top 10 to go out and buy 2 or 3 players, or even bring a couple in on loan. They could make a push for promotion. I think it'll be a really I know that's a really political answer where I don't want to get caught being something ridiculous again, but I do think it will be quite open this year.
Excellent. Matt Wilson?
Well, I had a babe. I've got a newborn, like about 4 weeks old, so I haven't done any research. I don't know who signed for anybody. I don't know what day it is. So I think that, I think that I concur with the whole Fulham, Sheffield United and Bournemouth being sort of the top 3. I think it's between them for the automatics, and I think that I think something about Blackburn, who, like, over the last couple of years, they've shown that they're capable of scoring goals. And again, I'm not sure whether they've kept hold of Dak and what's the guy that was scoring the goals for them last year.
Adam Armstrong. I think they've had a bid for him, but so I think they're expecting him to leave. Yeah,
they managed to keep hold of Armstrong. He looked like he's got goals in him. And it's when you see teams that put together where they're scoring 4 and 5 goals, you start to think that that there's something going on there. So I think they could be a little bit of a dark horse, but I didn't know what to say about the bottom of the division, but. I think what Matt Glennon said there was actually pretty smart. I think the organisation and getting your business done, and I think that everybody looks at football as being the players on the pitch, but actually they're just they're almost a manifestation of everything that's behind that. And I think that when there is unrest, when there is kind of chaos, that makes players not as good as they are, and it creates pressure and things like that. So. Whereas I think a lot of times fans look at it and they add it up like it's FIFA, and you just, he's at pace 99 and he's at finishing 90. But they're human beings that are part of an environment. So you said
stability, you just want stability, and you don't want uncertainty. That's what I mean. You want to concentrate on your game, not am I getting paid this week? Or is the training ground even going to be open this week? Is the manager going to be there? You just want consistency in your performances and in your everyday life, and that's what we all want, really. And yeah, in football, it very rarely happens, but when it does happen, it makes things a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that it's encouraging to hear that some of these teams are probably in a bit worse condition with us off the pitch, and therefore that maybe makes us a bit higher by default. But yeah, that's all. Nothing inspiring to say other than that, really.
My bottom 3, for what it's worth, I had Derby bottom just because of what's going on. Everything's a bit of a mess over there. 23rd, I've gone for Blackpool because they seem to have lost quite a few players, but they're run quite well now. The Oystons are long gone. The guy that's come in, the bloke who I think he's a Blackpool fan, but he's got quite a lot of business out in Hong Kong, quite well off. So they could move. They've signed the striker down to a new contract, which is key for them. So, but I've also gone for Coventry and Hull. Coventry, I think Mark Robbins does a decent job, but they've lost a couple of players, and their ownership, Cecil at Coventry, it's. Yeah. I just look at them, and I look at the alums at Hull as well, and I just think, potentially I think it's okay when you're winning games. Everybody's, like Pozza said earlier, when you win games, everybody thinks that the sun's shining and everything's great. But it's when you start losing, and that's the decisions that come when you start losing. And when Hull went on that bad run last time they're in the Championship, the alums were not great owners, and I just think if they get on a bit of a run, then. They've
been trying to sell it for a long time. Obviously, I played for Hull. Wife's from Hull. He's not very well. He's been a poorly man for a long time. He has been trying to get rid of the club for a while, so he's not putting his money in. He did the same with North Ferriby. He owned that as well, and he just pulled the plug. again, it's down to personal reasons, and nobody's willing to go to the island of Hull to take over the club. No one's got a passport big enough to get over to Hull these days and say buy the club, which is a good club, good fan base, but yeah, just in a sticky situation at the minute.
Poz, did you give a bottom three in the end?
No, mate, but I'll go with Blackpool, Peterborough, and someone else.
They were outsiders to get in the playoffs. Now you believe relegate them.
I was going to say dark horse.
No. You just say enough teams in enough positions, eventually you'll get one right.
Yeah.
Just name all 24 at Norwich.
See, kind of a roulette wheel, just throw your chips. Just throw them chips on the
It could
board.
be one of those seasons, though, couldn't it? It could genuinely be one of those where nothing would surprise you. Just do everything that's happening at the moment.
Yeah, like the owner, Phil Hodgkinson's been saying for a while, hasn't he, that, you know, football finance is in a bit of a dire way. And I think the championship clubs didn't get much of a bailout, did they, in the end? So it's going to be interesting to see. I think financials are going to play a huge part in how this pans out. And that's pretty much why I think the three teams that come down from the Premier League are probably, you know, the top 3 or 4 that go back up. And, you know, the teams in the championship, it's all about dodgy owners, isn't it? And all about owners that struggle to make ends meet. And I think it's really going to maybe strike home this year.
You can always just sell your stadium to yourself, so it's never an issue.
Yeah, or create a taxi firm, something like
exactly,
that.
Exactly, taxi firms and stuff like that. Sponsor yourself. It's dead easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Just put the right accounts in. That's all you've got to do.
Yeah,
Don't
not
put the
Harry
year
Redknapp's
before's
dog
accounts
this
in,
time.
and you're all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
We certainly have GM27 Stadium. We know what's going on there, don't we?
Don't put that in either. Don't get sued. That gets cut. That gets cut from the final edit.
Oh dear. Right, guys, I think that's all we've got time for, unless anybody's got any other business that's going forward to next season.
Way past my bedtime. No, chance.
No, we're all good. Guys, thank you very much for joining us for this episode, and thank you very much to everybody that listens, and thank you to our sponsors, Magic Rock Brewing, for their constant sponsorship of the podcast. And we'll be back again when the season starts with a preview show with Brady and Josh, and we'll be back normally from Monday mornings onwards for you guys. So thank you again, and up the town.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.